This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
Part 1. A Grand Vision. Chapter 1. America, Route 66 and Charlie Pyle. America in 1928. The United States stood in the twilight, a last pause before the tumbling stock market spiraled into the Great Depression. This was the decade of Wall Street speculation, prohibition, jazz, speakeasies, and machine-gun-toting gangsters who made millions supplying the country with illegal booze. Charles Lindbergh, in something akin to Neil Armstrong's walk on the moon, flew the Atlantic in his single-engine Spirit of St. Louis airplane. Most Americans hoped the ocean was broad enough to protect them from the problems of the Old World, which had claimed the lives of millions of young men in the trenches of France during World War I, and left the continent disillusioned and seething. The United States had its own problems: rural poverty, racism, income inequality, but all were left to simmer beneath the surface of a society trying to forget the sorrows of the planet. And perhaps, because all else seemed so somber, this was also the decade of sportsmania, when fans followed the careers of men like baseball's king of SWAT, Babe Ruth, and football's galloping ghost, Harold Red Grange, with a fervor bordering on religious. Technology was driving America, breaking barriers everywhere and drawing the nation into a homogeneous whole. From an isolated farmhouse in Nebraska to a Manhattan brownstone, the explosive growth of radio receivers and stations flooded America with news of the nation and the world. And then came the cars. In 1900, Vermont required a driver to have someone walk in front of his car with a red flag. The United States produced 4,000 cars each year, and no filling stations existed in the entire country. By 1928, America was a country on wheels. The country produced 4.8 million cars a year, with 26 million cars on the road. That year, there was 1 car per 5 people in the United States, compared to 1 car per 43 people in Great Britain, 325 in Italy, and 7,000 in Russia. This widespread ownership was made possible by the mass production techniques pioneered by Henry Ford. In 1920, he produced 1 car every 60 seconds, priced from $335 to $440, which was affordable to the American middle class. And so came the demand for better roads. In 1914, there was almost no good roads outside the East Coast, and crossing the continent was an adventure. The Federal Road Act of 1916 offered money and matching grants to states that formed highway departments, thus prompting the launch of ambitious road-building programs. The first highways were local ventures without federal coordination. But in 1925, the country adopted a plan for a national highway system. One author wrote, "The miracle was not the automobile. The miracle of the early 20th century was the construction of a vast network of highways that gave the automobile some place to go." In the 1920s, the construction of highways and buildings employed more people and spent more money than any private industry. Cyrus Avery and Route 66. Cyrus Stearns Avery, a prominent Tulsa businessman, became a leader in the effort to develop national highways and almost single-handedly created United States Highway Route 66. In 1923, he was appointed the first chairman of Oklahoma's 3-man Highway Commission and became a member of the American Association of Highway Officials. In 1924, this group petitioned the federal government to develop a comprehensive and uniform scheme of interstate routes and a common highway numbering system.